Welcome to New Hampshire's Business. I'm Fred Coker. There are over 1,300 bills in this New Hampshire legislature, everything from housing to data privacy to the protection of gray squirrels. We're not going to talk about that one. But with me to walk through legislative proposals that could impact businesses as well as many of us is Mike Skeleton, President and CEO of the Business and Industry Association of New Hampshire. Welcome. Nice to have you, Michael, in the studio.
Always glad to be here.
Now, as you know, the shortage of affordable housing is just about on everybody's list as something that needs solutions. And we've got a bill that does that, a couple of bills actually. And let's go to the housing tax credits purchased by employers to offset business profits tax and business enterprise tax liability, with the credits being used for converting old mills, warehouses, and other underused buildings into housing. What say you?
Well, I think this is a really good idea, something that we're supportive of. This is one of many housing bills in this session. As you noted, we are facing a housing supply crisis in New Hampshire, and it's impacting our workforce and our ability to grow our economy. So measures like this are part of an all-of-the-above strategy we need to build more apartments, more condos, more single-family homes. That's going to help us grow our economy.
And you said there's a boatload of housing bills in this session.
Absolutely, yeah. This is one of dozens of bills looking to increase housing supply, and not one alone is going to solve the problem. So we really need multiple solutions like this.
Now, here's a bill that you say would restrict the expansion of wireless communications in New Hampshire. House Bill 1487, communications antennas must be placed at least 1,640 feet from residentially zoned areas, schools, parks, playgrounds, etc., to protect against health effects caused by radio frequency waves. What about that? Is there a problem here?
I don't think there's a problem here, and this falls into the category of what we see as unnecessary regulations that can impact our business climate. Our job at the BIA as statewide chamber is to make sure our state's business climate is healthy and prosperous, and we're a leading state for business. And one of the most important things we can do in that regard is make sure that we don't have burdensome regulations. And this is something where I think there's well-intentioned efforts to make sure that we're safe, but there is no documented proof that there's risks associated with these types of issues, and this would really add some complexity and difficulty to what we need to do to make sure our infrastructure system supports economic growth.
Now, data privacy, something that we're all concerned about these days, and here are two bills. The confidentiality of medical records. All medical information in possession of a healthcare provider is also the property of the patient and can be accessed by the patient, and also patient protection of personal information on driver's licenses. Now, these are two bills, Michael, that you're in support of?
We're concerned about data privacy bills. Yeah, and so this is, when it comes to data privacy, the details matter. I think we all agree that the privacy of consumer data should be protected. But how the legislature goes about that is really important to ensuring that the businesses that rely on having access to this information are able to provide consumers with the services that they want. So we need to tread carefully when we're moving forward on these, and there usually is some room for compromise and the ability to make sure that what the legislature's intent is matches what we need to do to allow commerce to continue to operate.
Okay. Now, you say, your BIA says, energy projects in New Hampshire are being delayed in this particular committee. So to attract investments for modernizing aging infrastructure by reducing the site evaluation committee members from 9 to 5, Public Utilities Commission 3, Department of Energy 1, and the Public 1. What's going on here?
Well, this has been a long-time effort to look at how we permit and site energy infrastructure in New Hampshire. And one of the most important things we can do to lower energy costs is make it easier to build stuff in New Hampshire. It sounds simple, but it's actually pretty complex. The Site Evaluation Committee is the key body that we have here. We need to make it more effective, more timely, more ability to assess this infrastructure and get shovels in the ground more quickly. I think this effort does.
There have been delays in decisions.
Absolutely.
Right? And very quickly, on the environment, restricting use of polyfluoroalkyl, and I actually pronounced it, which are substances of PFAS substances, a group of synthetic chemicals used in certain consumer products such as packaging and fabrics.
Yeah, and this is an important issue that I know many folks are interested and concerned about. It's been in the news here in New Hampshire and many other states lately. And it's something that, again, we need to tread carefully in terms of how we go about this, because these substances are used in dozens and dozens, hundreds of products, almost everything we use on a daily basis. And we have to strike the right balance of making sure that we're actually using science-based regulations to protect individuals, while also protecting consumers.
And I just know the Environmental Department of Environmental Services is investigating those substances in New Hampshire, in many parts of the state.
Absolutely.
And so we know that. Michael Skelton, President and CEO of the Business and Industry Association of New Hampshire, thank you.
Thanks, Fred.
And if you missed part of this briefing on possible legislation at the State House or bills that are already going through the process, you can go to WMUR.com, where it will be posted all this week.